Natalie McNally was a 32-year-old mother-to-be who lived in Lurgan, Northern Ireland. A popular woman who was widely renowned for her kindness, Natalie's future looked bright as she prepared for the birth of her baby with partner Stephen McCullagh. But disaster struck just a few days before Christmas of 2022, the night of December 18th, when Natalie was brutally attacked and killed in her home. While Stephen was initially considered a suspect, he had a convenient excuse. He was live streaming on his YouTube channel at the time Natalie would have been killed. However, there was more to this live stream than meets the eye.
Filled with sinister Easter eggs of sorts, this livestream was quickly determined to not be as authentic as it may have come across at first glance. It's now heavily suspected Stephen McCullagh used his social media following as a front to end Natalie McNally's life.
Stephen McCullagh was a YouTuber from Lisburn, Northern Ireland, who initially began uploading to his original channel, Votesaxon07, in April of 2010. This channel, its name itself a reference to the Doctor Who meme, centred specifically around Doctor Who content. McCullagh would review Doctor Who action figures, merchandise and collectibles.
There were some conflicts with YouTube regarding copyright and fair use when it came to these videos, so Stephen ended up making a second channel under the same name, with the first channel left up to serve as an archive for the original content. While Doctor Who remained a big part of the content on his new channel, he branched into other aspects of geek culture, reviewing Marvel TV shows, merchandise from other fandoms, and frequently collaborating with the other YouTuber 2PennyMilk.
It's worth noting that following McCullagh's arrest, the 2PennyMilk channel has been deactivated, with all previous content scrubbed from the website. On occasion, he would also upload more personal videos. As of today, his channel has amassed over 30,000 subscribers. While live streaming does not appear to have been a staple of the Votesaxon07 channel, it is something McCullagh is shown to have engaged in occasionally. Sometimes these live streams were video game playthroughs, but not always. The final of these live streams, and the fateful stream we will be covering in this video, was broadcast on December 18th of 2022. It is still available to view on the Votesaxon07 YouTube channel, and is currently sitting at nearly 200,000 views. The strangely named Violent Night Christmas live gaming stream lasted approximately 6 hours and featured McCullagh engaging in playthrough of the video game Grand Theft Auto Vice City. It's worth noting this was the first livestream to take place on the channel in a year. He announced on social media at 4 PM of December 18th he would be live streaming that night.
Very early on in the stream, McCullagh establishes that due to technical issues he couldn't rectify in time, he wouldn't be able to check the chat during the live stream and interact with viewers' questions and comments. He also wouldn't be able to check donations or subscriptions or see any of them. He said that the chat was likely to completely crash if he checked any of this, which is already quite suspicious right off the bat.
The stream has a very strange tone about it. He feels the need to reiterate on multiple points he will not be leaving his house for the night, and also talks quite an amount about violence and crime, stating he prefers to stick to doing crimes in video games rather than in real life, though he does go off on an odd tangent about the rise of crime in the real world at one point. McCullagh went to great efforts to make the stream look real, consistently checking if he was quote-unquote still live, and taking breaks from the livestream every hour or so. Before returning from one such break, the theatrical release poster for the James Bond movie No Time to Die randomly flashes up on the screen for a couple of seconds, and McCullagh claims this was an error when the broadcast returns. McCullagh also undertakes a side mission at one point during the livestream in which the protagonist of the game must kill a woman and make her death appear accidental. Throughout the course of the mission, McCullagh can be heard saying things like, "I need to get the bitch, I need to take her down," and "Time is of the essence, I nearly got the bitch." Most brazenly and chillingly of all, McCullagh exclaims "abso-f***ing-notly" during the stream, before smirking at the camera and twisting the expression to "abso-f***ing-Natalie." This very same night, during which time frame the livestream was taking place, Natalie McNally, Stephen McCullagh's girlfriend, would be brutally murdered.
I wasn't able to find an excessive amount of information on Natalie McNally herself. She was from Lurgan in County Armagh and worked as a marketing manager. It's also important to note that at the time of her death she was pregnant with her first child, who would have been a boy. She was the only girl in her family, raised alongside 3 brothers, and seems to have been doted on by everyone around her. By all accounts, Natalie was a lovely and immensely kind person. It's reported she was a passionate LGBTQ+ rights activist. Furthermore, having been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes growing up, she was dedicated to campaigning and fundraising to aid research of the condition as well.
It's reported McNally and McCullagh entered a relationship in August of 2022, roughly 6 months before her murder took place. She then became pregnant with McCullagh's child. Natalie had texted Stephen prior to his livestream after he had messaged her to ask her to wish him luck. She did so, telling him she might hop online to watch at some point. On the night of McCullagh's livestream, neighbours alleged they heard a scream coming from McNally's Lurgan home around 9 PM. Roughly the same time McCullagh was supposedly playing a mission that involved killing a female character. If this was a coincidence, it's certainly a chilling one. The murder is determined to have taken place sometime between 8:52 p.m. and 9:31 p.m. of that night. Natalie had suffered injuries related to strangulation, had stab wounds on her neck, and blunt force trauma to her head. There were also signs of defence wounds. A knife was recovered at the crime scene, but the blunt weapon that caused her head wounds never ended up being found. Her body was supposedly discovered by Stephen McCullagh when he travelled to her home on the following morning of December 19th. He called law enforcement to the scene and told them when they arrived that Natalie had recently been facing harassment from an ex-partner.
Stephen McCullagh was subsequently arrested. However, on December 24th, he would be released without charge due to his alibi. He had been live streaming the night of the murder. Another male in his 30s was then arrested in relation to Natalie's murder. However, I couldn't find any information about his arrest online or why he was considered a suspect, and he too was eventually released without charge. Stephen McCullagh had probably thought he'd gotten away with it at this point. However, it wouldn't be long before he came under the radar of Northern Irish police again.
McCullagh was believed by the McNally family to be a grieving partner who had suffered the same loss as themselves. The night before Natalie's funeral, Christmas night of 2022, Stephen requested to spend time alone with Natalie's body, which was permitted. He spent approximately 20 minutes in the room with her corpse undisturbed. On that night, and on several other occasions, McCullagh reiterated his alibi of a live stream to the family, in order to dissuade them from suspecting him. It is also alleged that on a separate occasion, McCullagh left his phone behind at the residence of the McNally family in order to record a 40-minute conversation between them and figure out if they suspected he may be responsible for Natalie's death. He visited their home frequently following Natalie's passing. Natalie was buried in a humanist ceremony on Boxing Day. Stephen also attended a rally for Natalie and violence against women, for which he prepared a montage of photos and videos of his deceased partner. Prosecution would go on to describe McCullagh as having played on everyone's sympathies during this time and having painted himself as a victim.
And after McCullagh's status was downgraded from suspect to witness, he is reported to have been very uncooperative with law enforcement, not really answering any questions or offering help when asked. And this doesn't really make any sense. Like, he's the only person with a first-hand account of the murder scene. Can he not see how damaging that would be to his case?
He came back under intense suspicion when the NCA as well as cybercrime experts analysed the livestream and came to the conclusion that the stream was indeed being faked, and was a video pre-recorded in the days prior to the 18th. It would later be revealed during McCullagh's court hearing that he deleted the video of the fake livestream from his computer 5 minutes after the fake broadcast had finished. When caught out on this, McCullagh admitted that he had indeed pre-recorded the livestream, but still adamantly denied any involvement in Natalie's death. He insisted that he had watched the video go out online while drinking at home and eventually fell asleep. He and his defence team have said he did this as a failsafe to attract more viewers who preferred live content, though for obvious reasons this story does not come across as very believable. McCullagh was re-arrested on January 31st, 2023, after the emergence of new CCTV evidence that potentially incriminates him, and charged with Natalie's murder on February 2nd.
Following being charged, McCullagh had a court hearing in March 2023. During this hearing, the fake livestream was discussed at length, as well as discussing McCullagh's potential whereabouts the night of Natalie's killing and his potential motive for the crime.
The court heard that between December 15th and 16th, just a few days prior to her death, Natalie had exchanged 33 text messages with a previous partner. McCullagh, who knew Natalie's passcode, was said to have unlocked the phone 9 separate times on December 17th. The prosecution alleged Stephen was, as a result, aware of this communication, and it became the motive for his crime. It's worth mentioning also that the hearing revealed, despite having promised Natalie he would abstain from alcohol in support while she was pregnant, he states early in the stream that he'll be drinking throughout as he feels it would add to the fun.
McCullagh's refusal to cooperate with law enforcement was also discussed, with the prosecution asking why he would not want to help find his partner and unborn child's killer if it weren't him.
On the night of Natalie's passing, a suspect was filmed on CCTV walking towards a Dunmurry bus stop, just 2 miles from McCullagh's Lisburn home. The man seemed to be attempting to conceal his identity, wearing a hood, snood and black gloves. This first collection of footage was captured at 7:09 p.m. Prosecution cited that this man resembled McCullagh in both height and build. This same individual is then captured boarding a bus to Lurgan on said bus's CCTV. Once again, the man is clearly trying to hide his identity, with the hood pulled down far in front of the upper half of his face and the snood concealing the lower half. When attempting to pay the bus driver, the cash falls from his hands, and when he bends over to pick it up, he is unable to due to the thickness of his gloves. He removes the gloves to make the process easier, revealing another pair of yellow latex gloves underneath. Throughout the entire 90-minute journey to Lurgan from Dunmurry, the CCTV shows the suspect sitting nearly motionless, aside from occasionally checking if his face remains covered, even when drinking from a bottle of Coke. He is seen to be carrying an Asda bag for life, with a black rucksack contained inside. The man then gets out at the closest stop to Natalie's home in Lurgan and goes to her house. He emerges 40 minutes later having completely changed his clothes. CCTV captured of the man walking in Silverwood Green, Natalie's neighbourhood, shows the man has a gait strikingly similar to McCullagh's. Natalie owned a German Shepherd dog who was described as her constant companion. However, on the night of the murder, nobody claimed to have heard the dog make any noise whatsoever. Prosecution believes this is because McCullagh would have been familiar to the dog, and therefore it wasn't alarmed by his initial presence. The disguised man is captured on CCTV leaving Silverwood Green at 9:31 PM in his changed clothes. Given the aforementioned estimated time in Natalie's murder, this CCTV footage aids in the belief that it was indeed this person who committed the attack. He then gets into a taxi that was waiting on a different fare. He instructed the driver to go to Lisburn, telling him that he needed to go and visit his ill mother. The man then took the taxi to a location close to McCullagh's home address, where it arrived at 11:13 PM. The house is surrounded by high trees, but the man enters the front gate and comes back a couple of minutes later to pay the taxi driver. He then removes 2 bags from the taxi and throws them over the hedge at the front of the house. The taxi driver in question has since identified McCullagh as the man who took this specific taxi journey on a lineup, and showed police where he dropped the fare, which is confirmed by the GPRS on the taxi. The driver also admitted that he had seen McCullagh in the media. McCullagh did state during his rearrest interview that someone came to his house around the same time as the taxi had dropped off its fare, and while he pre-offered a few names as to who it might have been, he couldn't narrow it down to one. It was also noted in the hearing that while McCullagh's mobile phone couldn't provide any evidence he was involved with Natalie's death, it showed no activity whatsoever from 6 PM of December 18th until 11:16 PM of that evening, just minutes after the taxi driver dropped the fare at McCullagh's home. Once again, McCullagh used his new alibi of drinking and as a result falling asleep as an excuse as to why his phone was not active. Prior to the hearing, it is reported McCullagh's browser history had also been checked. Among his searches from November 12th to November 30th included: which is less painful, drowning or burning to death? Is drowning a painful way to die? And is it more painful to be shot in the head or in the heart? As well as various terminology related to drowning and unconsciousness. Cold, cynical and cool-headed were among the words described by the prosecution to carry out this horrendous act.
Refused bail at his hearing, Stephen McCullagh's trial was supposed to take place in late 2023. On January 12th just gone, Stephen McCullagh appeared in Belfast Crown Court and pled not guilty to the crime. The judge clarified that the earliest the trial was likely to take place at this point is September of this coming year, set to last over 3 or 4 weeks, with any hope justice for Natalie will be served. May she rest in peace.
While he hasn't been tried yet, the evidence is stacked high against Stephen McCullagh. The brazen and insidious nature of the fake stream are enough to make anyone's blood boil. The calculated and pointed manner in which he murdered his partner, all the while victimising himself and aligning himself with her family and friends, is disturbing on so many levels.
If you've been affected by the subject matter of this video, I've put some links to some domestic violence hotlines in the description. My most sincere condolences to Natalie's friends and family.